Hi, everybody. This is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on August the 2nd in the year of our Lord 2025, and I have some great information for you. Let's go ahead and click over Murtech on Rumble. There we are. This is the video that you're watching right now, my episode 1642. Let's click over here, close the live chat, and let's slide down here and click on show more to expand the description box. So we're going to start off with Benny Johnson and then go with Black Conservative Perspective, Glenn Beck, and Steve Gruber show. But before we get into that, let's jump down here and give shout outs here to Debbie BS reposted my episode 1641. Debbie BS also commented, also reposted episode 1639. And Debbie BS commented on episode 1639. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 426A, 426B, and 426C. And Mohican Last commented on my extra 427C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. And thank you, WBS, for reposting my videos. I greatly appreciate that. The more exposure I get, the better, because people need to know the truth. That's what we provide here, the no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, the information that you're not going to get from the lying legacy media or deep state swamp. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Boom. There it is. There it is. Okay, well, let's get into this. Let's get going. And by the way, I do have a thumbs up button right here. If you'd like to go ahead and click on that, that would be nice. Okay, let's get into this. Benny Johnson. Matt Gaetz blows doors off of DNC collusion with Soros to fund coup against Trump, dragged to testify. Okay, let's take a listen and see what that's all about. Get back.
Oh, Matt, what's up? Sometimes you just like book them right. Goodness gracious. So Tulsa was just on, and then they dropped the Durham report. The Durham Annex, you know the scandal better than virtually anyone alive because you were in Congress fighting against it day and night. And one of the
just say it, Benny. Just say it. I peaked during the Russia hoax. Okay?
You did. You called these bastards out to their face.
During the Russia hoax, and now it's back in the news. But could we just take a moment and reflect on the fact that, like, John Durham wrote this whole report, came and testified before Congress, and apparently all of the bangers were in an appendix that we had to win an election and then get control of the FBI and CIA in order to read? Like, in what? If Donald Trump had not won this election, you would never even have seen this stuff. And we endured years of the media saying I was Vladimir Putin's lawyer, Trump was Vladimir Putin's agent, that there were these tapes and this compromising material, and the whole thing was cooked up by the Clinton campaign, and it didn't work. And then after it didn't work, when they were trying to manipulate the media and convince us all that, like, you know, we would be raising the Russian flag over the White House if Donald Trump won, after it didn't work, Obama himself ordered a hit on the Republic, on American democracy, when on December 9th of 2016, he got everybody together and he said, look, go back, redo these assessments. And he gave the message to Clapper and Brennan that they were to create this predicate, and that Comey would then be the inside man still in the Trump administration to pull the levers of government to try to destabilize this presidency. And somehow, through all of this, Donald Trump got his tax cuts, preserved peace in the world, backed down Kim in North Korea, and gave us some of the greatest prosperity any of us have known in our lives up to the COVID deal. And so it's quite a moment, but it also shows, like, how dogged you have to be to get this stuff. Is no one outraged over the fact that John Durham gave hours of public testimony and we're just getting this stuff now?
Yeah, like, can you please elucidate for us? I'm sure you haven't had the opportunity to read these thousands of documents that just broke seconds ago. But do you have any top line information that you've learned?
Other members and staff have seen this stuff, you know, before today. And the core of it is that the beginning of the Russia hoax was not George Papadopoulos in some London bar. It wasn't some belief that there were secret Trump, Putin channels of communications through Eric Prince in the Seychelles. That the whole thing was, in fact, cooked up and sold to donors such as Soros and the Open Society Foundation as a political mechanism, just like if you and I were involved in a campaign, we would say, okay, well, we're really going to attack this candidate based on their views on energy, right? And we would develop memos about that, and we would go talk to reporters about what we thought about that candidate's views on energy, right? But here, they went to the Russia thing, I guess because that was easier than campaigning in the Great Lakes Stakes and going to Wisconsin. I mean, it's so crazy to think about. But they did that here, and then they injected it into the intelligence community with the help of some of these pseudo political operatives and high-ranking officials at DOJ, CIA, and FBI. So that's what you're going to see: the correspondence that ran on the rails of communication, the pitch to financiers. Because remember, the original guy who walked this into the FBI was John McCain. Now, this was a deal that some Rubio donor had cooked up, and then McCain walks it in, and it's kind of dismissed. And then the DNC picks it up because they say, whoa, this is something we can really pour the gas on and get to be a central focus of the campaign. Turns out people just wanted closed borders and an economy that worked.
So tell me, I just went to community college, Matt, so help me through this. We've heard for a decade now that President Trump paid the Russians to help him win and rig the election in 2016. Am I just understanding this as a simpleton? It was the exact opposite, that Hillary Clinton was using Russian disinformation. These are Russian spies. Christopher Steele's sanctioned by working for and being paid by a sanctioned Russian oligarch. All of this disinformation about President Trump came literally from Russia. And that was Hillary Clinton's campaign that was merchandising it, and the FBI that was then laundering it to the CIA and to the press and the media. So it was actually them working with the Russians in order to attack Trump.
That's right. That's exactly right. The media and the FBI were white labeling Russian dirt that was being assembled by foreign spies who hated Trump, paid for by the DNC. That is what happened. And
how is that not treasonous?
Those things, they called us crazy. They said, how dare we question the integrity or the viewpoint of how Robert Mueller is looking at this investigation. We had Republicans saying that. We had Trey Gowdy and the like saying, just let Mueller do his job and this will all be great. Where was Mueller investigating the Russians that were assembling the Steele dossier? That's my question. I mean, if Mueller was supposed to investigate the Russian interference in the election, what you just learned from this annex is that it was the Democrats and it was the elements of our own government at President Obama's direction that were white labeling Russian dirt in order to try to sway voters, and then after voters would not be swayed, to literally try to sway a presidency. They prosecuted Trump for taking home some documents. Barack Obama tried to take home the whole presidency. I think there has to be accountability for this. Here's the real strategy question going forward, though, Benny. This is all documents, right? And evidence takes two forms: documents and witnesses. How good are the witnesses? Can they withstand cross-examination? Would you put them before the House Judiciary Committee and Jamie Raskin? Would you put them on the stand if you wouldn't be willing to subject them to rigorous review? How do they come across? How do they look? These are all things that I think Jamie Comer knows. They're things that the Justice Department and the DNI probably know. We'll all find out how good those witnesses are, I think, in the coming weeks and months.
So now if you have these documents, and you mentioned the Soros Foundation, so you're saying the Soros Foundation, and forgive me, Matt, we're just reading them live on air here. You have a spectacular live show as well on One American News, but we're reading them live on air. Am I to understand that this is implicating the Soros Foundation in assistance in paying for all this? Because it was very expensive to do this operation. It cost millions of dollars in order to run this operation through Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, and so on. I mean, is there going to be legal culpability potentially for George Soros here?
The challenge with that is so much of this money is disaggregated, fungible, And so what happens in politics is that when people feel like they've got a really compelling pitch to donors, that there's a great ad that will really cut through if we only had another $1 million to put it on TV, or there's this great candidate, and if we just gave them the right funding, they would secure this important position of power. And in this case, what appears to have happened is that the Debbie Wasserman Schultz DNC apparatus was trying to seduce the Soros operation into really funding a lot of the information operation around this. And whether or not you could tie those specific funds then into those ops, I don't see that in the docs yet. Still a lot to review. But I think the solicitation of the Soros Foundation to do this shows like that's not how you run a counter intel op. That's not how you run a criminal investigation. That's how you run a political smear campaign, and showcasing that tradecraft, I think, further indicts the Brennan viewpoint that all of this needed to be included in the official work product of our government.
Well, it should be enough for a subpoena, right? Like that, having the name dropped in there and having.
Did you put Brennan there? Hey, by the way, here's a fair question. How come John Brennan never had to testify in public about this stuff? I asked him questions behind closed doors, but I begged our leadership, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, no more of these behind closed doors depots. Let's drag these guys in front of the country and ask them the questions that are on the minds of regular folks. And all I could get was the behind closed door deposition. That may turn out to be one of the predicate criminal acts in the conspiracy, Brennan's perjury to my questions about his involvement in the Steele dossier.
Wow.
But I think it's a fair question for Republicans to ask. We've got this majority. Why don't we take it out for a spin?
So wait a second. You're telling me that Republican leadership kneecapped you back when this was all rolling? When, well, I assume, would it be Paul Ryan in charge of the House?
No. I mean, these were decisions that were made, during the current ruling regime of the Republican structure. And here's what I was told when I said, look, Benny, the investigation was about the 51 intelligence officials that signed the letter that said that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. And so we interviewed a lot of those people in private, and they said some very interesting things, and we released the transcripts. But that's nothing like having to have people answer live questions, Republicans and Democrats from both sides. And what I was told is that we would look potentially mean and retaliatory to be going after people for their political conduct.
This is Smash Mouth.
What I was told.
Man, we're fighting communists, dude. Like, this is Smash Mouth. Like, what is going on?
Well, by the way, how are we supposed to win a war against these people when they're using the imprimatur of their security clearance and their government role to go and tell lies about Hunter Biden's laptop and Donald Trump? And when we ask them tough questions, we look like the mean guys, and so we're not going to do it. I was very opposed to that decision that was made. I voiced that viewpoint, and so I did the best I could. I showed up to all the behind closed doors depots. I did so when most of the members didn't. And I did what I could to ask the questions that would be on the minds of your viewers.
Would you mind elucidating for us where you think there was a perjury trap for Brennan, what you've gotten? And forgive us, sometimes, you guys release these transcripts. You release transcripts that are like 7,000 pages long. It's like so hard to get through.
Yeah, so here's the gist of it. I was like, look, man, how come you got all these people together to say that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation? What was your basis to say it was Russian disinformation? He said, my entire career of making decisions about Russia and their intelligence operations. I was like, oh, well, good. I've got one I'd like to ask you about, the Steele dossier, since you're such an expert in all things Russia. And his lawyers went nuts and said, well, we're not here to talk about Steele. We're here to talk about Hunter Biden. And I said, well, tough. You opened the door for it. And so since they opened the door, I proceeded on a line of questioning wherein Brennan said, I had nothing to do with any analysis of the Steele dossier. That was all the FBI. CIA had no role in this. We made no decision about its inclusion. And now you got, like, if you throw a rock at Langley, so it hits somebody who says that they thought the Steele dossier was trash, should not be included. And it was Brennan himself who overruled good people at the CIA who said this stuff was nonsense. So that is where he committed a predicate criminal act in furtherance of a broader conspiracy. And the tell from the Department of Justice that they're doing this the right way is they're not just pursuing these as individual criminal acts, because if you do that, you have to bring that case in Washington, D.C., where the jury system is like a leftist Ouija board.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, but great information. If you, I'm like the 13-minute mark here. There's 7 minutes left in this video. I want to move on though. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Benny Johnson. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Great information. Like I said, if you want to see more of this video, the link to this video is in the description box below. So go ahead and click on that and check it out. But I do have some information that I want to share with you. And Rumble has provided me with a sponsor. So I want to go ahead and share that out with you. So let me go ahead and play this. Get it set up for you. Here we go.
Ready to level up your game? AIM Controllers is where custom meets unbeatable value, and right now, it's the best deal of the year.
We start with official Sony and Xbox controllers, fully compatible with console and PC, no functionality lost. Then you go wild with custom features, smart bumpers, paddles, grips, stick height, custom buttons, even design your own PS5 snap panels.
And here's the part no one else is doing. Lifetime warranty on all modified parts. That's right, lifetime. What other company does that? Exactly.
Normally, a fully loaded setup could run you $400, but during our one price promo, it's just $209 US or 182 euros, no matter how many features you add. Use code RUMBLE at checkout and lock it in. This is your sign.
Go to aimcontrollers.com and build the last controller you'll ever need.
Famous books of the 20th century written by an American named John Reed was about the Russian Revolution. It's called 10 Days That Shook the World. This would be 107 days that put the world to sleep.
It is bewildering. Well, look, there's going to be Democratic donors, I guess, or somebody who's going to buy the book. But I think it brings up a much bigger question, which is, where is the Democratic Party headed? And I think we both agree it's not headed towards Kamala Harris.
It's not toward Kamala Harris, and it's got to quit recycling old candidates. Cuomo in New York, the electorate took a look at him and said, we'd rather have a Democratic socialist than this. We had one Clinton, then we had a second Clinton run for president. We had Al Gore, the son of a senator. We had one Bush become president, another Bush become president, and a third Bush try to become president. How can we enrich the candidate pool without going over and over and over these, particularly because we all know Kamala Harris was picked to be vice president. Her only claim on running for president was that she'd been vice president. She was only vice president because Joe Biden, in his desperation, having lost everything before the South Carolina primary, says, okay, I'll pick a black female running mate.
And there were only a couple. It's difficult to understand why you'd think that after her running for president, where she didn't even make it to Iowa because she didn't make it to the caucuses, much less out of Iowa, and then lost to Donald Trump in 2024, she would think the third time is my charm.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about a couple of brutal reality checks for the Democrat Party, because Kamala Harris made a stunning admission when she was on Stephen Colbert's failing show last night, which is that the Democrat Party doesn't really have a leader, okay? And because they don't have a leader, their party is in shambles, right? And at this point, it seems as if J.D. Vance, who is the vice president, the current vice president, he has the best shot of winning the 2028 election as of right now. Again, a lot of it due to the lack of leadership within the Democrat Party.
You're not running for office right now.
Yeah.
You're stepping away from that life right now. Who's leading the Democratic Party? I'm just curious.
There are lots of leaders, and
there's generally a leader of the Democratic Party. You know, like, oh, that's the leader of the Democratic Party. Who comes to mind?
I think there are a lot of, I'm not going to go through names because then I'm going to leave somebody out and then I'm going to hear about it. But let me say this. I think it is a mistake for us who want to figure out how to get out and through this and get out of it, to put it on the shoulders of any one person. It's really on all of our shoulders. It really is.
Well, this is interesting, and I think it may say a little bit about where the country is. J.D. Vance in the lead for 2028. I can't believe we're talking about 2028. I apologize. Against Pete Buttigieg, Vance leads by 1 point. Against AOC, Vance leads by 3. Against Gavin Newsom, Vance leads by 3 as well. What do we take from this, from everybody who says how terribly Donald Trump is doing?
Name recognition, first of all. People at least know the name J.D. Vance. Although, wouldn't it be interesting to see a poll how many Americans know the name of the vice president?
I think that would scare both you and I if it was here. But you have to get, I think there's something deeper about that poll. We pick it back up. I take your point at both levels, but if people viscerally hated everything that Donald Trump was doing, the Democrats should have a lot higher number, shouldn't they?
That's right. But they don't like a lot of what Donald Trump's doing, but they just don't like what the Democratic Party is. But if the Democrats have a lick of sense, they're going to look at some people outside the box.
Yeah, that is brutal for Democrats. Okay, it doesn't matter who they put up against J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is projected to win. AOC, Newsom, Kamala, doesn't matter, right? J.D. is sweeping the Democratic field right now. Again, this is really bad for Democrats because it doesn't matter who they try to put up against J.D. Vance. They're losing, okay? Assuming JD is going to be the nominee, we don't know, right? I personally think that Ron DeSantis has a good shot of being a dark horse in the GOP race now that Trump won't be running again. But who knows, right? I'm just saying that for Democrats, there's no clear leader. Kamala Harris clearly does not want to be leader, right? Just listen to her answer. She sounds scared, right? She's like, well, I can't really say we have a leader, right? There's so many people. I can't name them all, right? Somebody's going to get mad. But it's not up to any one person. It's on all of us. It's on all of us, right? Again, that sounds like somebody that doesn't want to lead, right? They don't want to lead. Kamala does not want to lead. She doesn't want any part of politics anymore, right? In my opinion, right? I think that Kamala is done. I think that Trump has broken her, okay, when it comes to politics. And that's why she's given the answers that she's given. She's clearly defeated. Okay. So with that being said, again, CNN also has a brutal reality check for the Democrats due to the fact that, again, they have no leader, while at the same time their party is completely in the tank. So they don't have any one person that can save the Democrat Party, that can pull them out of the situation that they're currently in right now.
Kamala Harris made her return to the national stage last night, sitting down with Stephen Colbert. It was her first major interview since leaving office. And during the sit-down, she discussed her announcement that she will not be running for governor of California, and also very clearly left the door open for another possible presidential run in 2028. CNN's Harry Anton looking at all the numbers for you on this. If she wants to run in 2028, what are the numbers that you're seeing about this right now?
Yeah, I would just say, hold your horses here. The chance that Kamala Harris is going to be the 2028 Democratic nominee, they don't look too good right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Chance of being the 2028 Democratic nominee.
Don't you do the caveat of like what year we're currently in?
I believe we're in 2025, though. It kind of feels like 2045. There have been so many years and just one so far. Look, Gavin Newsom is the favorite at 20%, according to the betting markets. Do not sleep on Ocasio-Cortez. AOC right up there at 15%. Buttigieg 9%. Shapiro 6%. Harris all the way down at 6, basically in a tie for 4th place at this particular point. So if you have any ideas that Kamala Harris is passing up a potential gubernatorial run-in for 2026 in California and perhaps would be trading up for a presidential bid, the betting markets at this point, simply put, do not buy it.
Yeah, and again, this is why I think that her career is over, right? I don't think she can win in California. I don't think that she can win at the national level. A Democrat primary, she can't win a general election. Her career is over, right? This is embarrassing. How is it that the last Democrat Party nominee and the vice president, who, again, we were told is amazing, right? Kamala's so brat. You guys remember that? Y'all remember Kamala being brat? How is it that she went from that to being basically an afterthought when it comes to chances of winning the Democrat primary in 2028? It's because all the hype around her was fake. None of those people actually like Kamala. They just hated Trump, right? And Trump hatred is not enough for Democrats to win. And that is one of my main points I've been driving home here for the last 6 or 7 months, which is that it's not going to be enough for Democrats to hate Trump. That's what they're relying on going into 2026. The midterms is not going to be enough. It's also not going to be enough in 2028, okay? At some point, Democrats have to stand for something, but they don't stand for anything at all. Except being against Trump. But what I want people to notice here is that out of the top 5 candidates, 4 of them are progressives. Kamala's a progressive. Pete Buttigieg is a progressive. AOC is a progressive. And Newsom is a progressive, which tells you everything you need to know about the Democrat Party, right? That only a progressive has a chance of actually winning, right? Which again is a big problem going into a general election. Can you guys imagine Gavin Newsom with how bad of a track record California has? Can you imagine him running as the Democrat nominee in 2028? Yeah, he's a slick talker, but he's not going to talk himself out of his bad record, right? He's just not going to be able to. I mean, his record is really bad. So, again, I think the main takeaway here is that there's nobody that is sane that has a chance right now of actually winning the Democrat Party primary. That is the biggest issue right now for Democrats.
Where are Democrats, though, right now, and how divided they are, historically speaking, looking at 2020?
Yeah, I would just say that at this particular point, Democrats at this point are historically divided. It is a complete and utter mess. It is messier than a hoarder's basement. What are we talking about here? The national early poll leader, 25% plus. Normally, that's where Democrats are. Biden was at 25% plus in 2020. Hillary Clinton was in 08 and 16. Gore was in 00 and 04. At this particular point, there is no one in the Democratic race for president who's polling at 25% plus. The water is quite warm. If you're a Democrat potentially thinking about running in 2028, jump right in, because at this point, there is no front runner.
What do you think? Is that because how people view the Democratic Party right now, is that contributing to this?
Yeah, I think that is in large part of what's going on, is one of the reasons why there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, is because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. The Democratic Party's net favorable rating, record lows in all 3. Wall Street Journal, 30 points underwater. CNN, 26 points underwater. Gallup, 26 points underwater. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base. The Democratic base wants something different. We'll ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It'll be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose.
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
Wow. Complete and utter garbage, right? Sit in, not holding back when it comes to how bad it is for the Democrats. And again, the problem is that the Democrat Party base is radicalized. They're radicalized against Trump, which makes it so Democrats have to become more and more extreme in order to be able to win a primary, which makes it less likely that they can win a general. Okay, that is the position that Democrats are currently in right now. It is an absolutely terrible position, but it is a position that they're in because of the decisions that their party made, right? They made the decision to get in bed with woke extremists, and that has backfired on them because now the Democrat Party isn't extreme enough for the extremists that the Democrats radicalized, right? So that is what's happening, right? And this is why you're seeing in all these polls, Democrats don't have a clear leader because none of the prominent Democrats who are the most commonly thought of candidates for 2028 are radical enough, right? They want a Zohran Mamdani. That's what they want. I guarantee you, if Zohran Mamdani ran in Democrat primary, I know a lot of people might think this is a stretch, but I think he would actually win. And I think he would blow away the competition, to be honest with you. I think he would win. I think that's how radicalized the Democrat Party has become. Like, the base of the party has become that radicalized. Okay? So, I mean, that is where the Democrats are at, which is not good for them, okay, at all. And it's certainly not good for the country. But it is good for the Republicans, which is why a lot of Republicans have expressed disappointment in the fact that Kamala Harris seems to be ending her career, right? She's not running for California governor, and I don't think that she's going to run for president. But if she does, then, hey, if she happens to win, it'll be great for Republicans because Republicans will use her as an example of what you're voting for when you vote for the Democrats, okay? So,
all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. We've got like 6 seconds left in this video. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I'm following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what's next. We got Glenn Beck. Is this the smoking gun on Hillary and Russiagate? Folks, there's so much of this information coming out. There's so much. And I'm anxious, and I'm sure you are too, of something to happen. But unfortunately, we've got to follow the process. We've known for years. All this stuff. Finally, it's coming out because we have Republicans in the House, Republicans running the Senate, and Donald Trump is president, and he has put people in places where at least the information is coming out. Will anything come of it? Will anyone actually pay the price for trying to defraud the American people? I don't know, but let's see what Glenn Beck has to say. Alrighty, here we go. For some reason, the audio is not coming through for Glenn Beck. I don't understand. I'm baffled. I'm baffled at this. Let me come over here and let me see if I can start the video, because these videos that I share with you folks are videos that I post on Murtech.com. So let me come down here to the post that I have for Glenn Beck, and let me click on that and try to run that and see what happens. All right, well, the only thing I know to do, folks, let me get back here, is to go to the next video from Steve Gruber. This video from Glenn Beck did come from YouTube. This video here from Steve Gruber comes from Rumble, so maybe we'll get better luck with this. So let me go ahead, and I apologize. I can hear the audio through my headphones, but for some reason it does not get broadcast out. And I do these videos the same one to the other. I just do the same stuff. So why this glitch is in Rumble, I'm not sure, but let's try Steve Gruber and see what happens there. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, that's not coming through. I am totally baffled on this. Let me come over here and we'll try this again. So, this has worked before. So I'm going to try running this video from Murtech.com and see what happens. Okay, folks, if you have any suggestions, I would be great to hear them. Give me something in the chat. That was my audio on my phone when I was checking out to see if the audio, because as I've said, the audio comes through on my headphones, so as far as I know, it's playing. But when I've got it on my TV too, and amazingly enough, the audio is not coming through. So I'm baffled. I don't know. I've actually contacted support on Rumble, and it's like they don't know what I'm talking about. So maybe I should send them this video and say, okay, explain it to me how this is happening. When I click on a video to play it, I don't get any audio. All right, let me jump back here, and I will say this about that the videos that I did share with you here do come directly from the producers. I want to try one more thing here. I'm going to refresh my panel on Rumble. Okay, so I've refreshed my panel. Let me come over here and try this Glenn Beck video again.
I want to, John Solomon, welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
It is great to be with you, Glenn. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So I want to start with this premise, and I know you're the same way. I really don't care about the politics at this point. Politics will follow later. I want to know the truth. And if I'm reading the Washington Post or New York Times, they're saying, this is not news. These are all fake. These were all Russian tools, put out to discredit Hillary Clinton. And so we shouldn't pay any attention. Tell me what was released and what you think at this point is true and not true.
Yeah, so what was put out yesterday is called the appendix, the classified appendix to John Durham's final report, the special prosecutor who looked at Russiagate. This is something he couldn't release publicly because it involved highly classified intercepts that the United States government had. These intercepts are of Russian spies, the GRU and other Russian spy agencies. And this has been a very successful program. There are multiple ways we intercept the Russian spies, but over the years, we've used this to make very major decisions about Russia. So the information is deemed to relatively be reliable. In fact, James Comey thought it was so reliable for this program that he used information from this program to rush out and wave his magic wand and decide that on his own, though he wasn't the Attorney General, he would clear Hillary Clinton of wrongdoing in the scandal. Why? Because the Russian intercepts suggested that Loretta Lynch was part of an effort to fix the case, and he didn't want that to happen, so he fixed the case himself. And so we've acted on it. We've acted on this intelligence over the years. In July of 16, Durham says the United States government intercepted information saying that the Russians had found out that Hillary Clinton had developed a plan and personally approved it to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house, basically accuse him of being a Vladimir Putin stooge, maybe be involved in the hacking of the Democratic National Committee computers. And it was deemed so credible that John Brennan ran and briefed Barack Obama. And then he briefed the entire senior leadership, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, James Comey, James Clapper, and of course, John Brennan himself was the recipient of the information, so his agency did it. Rather than investigate it, rather than use it as a reason to be dubious when Christopher Steele walks his dossier in or Michael Sussman walks in his Alpha Bank baloney, they actually lean into it. They actually decide they're going to investigate these allegations as real, even though there was enormous reason to be paused. Now, in these information, there are purported emails in which someone in the George Soros world writes, "Hey, I just got told that Hillary Clinton's going to hang this shingle and the FBI is going to participate in it." Now, he denies he wrote the email.
Well, wait. He says, I don't remember writing it.
No.
One of the lines kind of sounds like me, but I have no recollection of it. Or did he actually say, absolutely false, I didn't do it?
Yeah, he said, I wouldn't have used language like that. I didn't write that email. He does. Now, Jake Sullivan's a little bit different. Jake Sullivan is, I don't remember it, but I can't rule it out. So Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor to both Clinton and Biden over the years, has a little bit different. But as you walk through this, the intelligence community ultimately decides that this is probably not a fabrication. The FBI does so in 2017. Now, doesn't stop them from continuing to investigate the bogus Russia collusion back, but they decide that this intelligence is likely not fabricated. The CIA believes that it's likely predictive. Now, the way the program works, sometimes the Russian spies will fabricate in some way the detail. They'll make it look like it's an email, but it's really a summary. So we're aware of that. But what we generally know is whatever we get from the program is probably accurate, even if it's not an exact replica of an email or an exact replica of a text message. And so both the intelligence committee said there's likely, the FBI and the CIA, that this is not fabricated. It probably is reliable information. And history will tell us that what we intercepted actually happened. Hillary Clinton did exactly what we know. They authorized the Steele dossier. They authorized the Sussman Alpha Bank stuff. They went out on the news media and tried to paint Donald Trump as a fake Russian stooge for Vladimir Putin when he wasn't. And I want to point out the most important evidence that the early intelligence people realized looked like the Russians either were fortune tellers or they knew and had intercepted a real plan. One of the early intercepts is that what's going to happen is Hillary Clinton has approved this plan, and then we're reaching out to Joe Biden for Joe Biden to take the lead on this. Well, guess what happens? Within 24 hours of that intercept, Joe Biden goes out, and he's the very first major Democrat to go suggest that Donald Trump's got a problem with Russia, that he's a stooge, and that he's going to be bad for America, and that he's owned by Vladimir Putin. How would the Russians know that? How would they guess that and just know that that would happen? How would they know that the FBI was going to open up a case in a few days? So when the intelligence community looked back at this, the actual events of what played out with Hillary Clinton looks like exactly what the Russians knew in advance, and that's why they gave great credence to the idea that whether a specific email is accurate or not, the general information the Russians had intercepted likely occurred.
So then why did Durham bury this stuff? Because what they're saying is they had all this stuff. Durham was, this is under the Trump administration. Why didn't this come out if it was so real? This is just, they're just doing a hatchet job on, Hillary and Obama. I mean, the New York Times said the reason why this is out is because he's trying to avoid his name being, in the Epstein files or whatever.
That's right.
So why didn't we come out with this? Why are we just hearing about it now?
Well, in fairness, there were parts of you had to work hard because John Durham's team was not a good writing team. But the original report in the unclassified version had a lot of this. And I wrote about it a couple of years ago. And I spent the last 2 years trying to get this declassified. And when I brought President Trump on my show a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, he said, I'll do it. And 2 weeks later, he gave it to Chuck Grassley. So he did what we asked him to do. I have been advocating for the release of the classified version for 2 years. You could tell there was something very important. John Durham generally talks about the Clinton Plan initiative. Most reporters didn't see it as significant. I did. And I think now we see why it's significant, which is the FBI had a very good reason not to investigate Steele's dossier based on this intercept. It had a very good reason not to go to the FISA court and seek fake surveillance warrants. It had a very good reason not to bring the United States through the trauma of what we call Russiagate, but they chose not to do it. And it's the same FBI that a few months earlier had used the same Russian intelligence intercept program to take concrete action in the Hillary Clinton case. So when it's beneficial to a Democrat, they treat the Russian intelligence as real. And when it's detrimental to a Democrat, they try to dismiss it as Russian disinformation. I'll just say this. History shows in the last few years, when the New York Times tells you that something is true or not true on Russia, they've been generally wrong a lot. And when Democrats call something Russian disinformation, like the Hunter Biden laptop, we should all be a little dubious. That is going on right now. That machinery of the New York Times and the Democrats are back to the Hunter Biden language. We should be dubious. We should get to the facts. One of the things in the New York Times story this morning completely omitted. In the Durham report, it says that the FBI concluded that these were likely not fabrications. You think the New York Times would put that in their story, but I couldn't find it in there.
No, it's not.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, folks. And I like John Solomon. I need to share his information more because he puts out some good stuff. Okay, as you can see, this does come from Glenn Beck. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, and let me get back here. Before we move on, I'm going to try to do Steve Gruber, but I have another sponsor that Rumble has given me. So let me go ahead and do this.
All right, outdoor crew, if you're into fishing, camping, or getting off the grid, meet your new best friend, the Hunter Orange 25-quart cooler from Caddis Sports.
This isn't your average cooler. It's rotomolded for max durability, bear-proof, and 20% lighter than other brands, so it's easy to haul whether you're deep in the backcountry or just setting up at the dock.
You'll get up to 3 days of ice retention, thanks to thick, high-performance insulation. That means cold drinks, fresh food, and fewer ice runs, whether you're chasing muttons offshore or posted up at a campsite.
Best part? It's 40 to 50% cheaper than the big-name coolers, but still built to perform season after season. And like all Caddis Sports name brand gear, it's proudly made in the USA.
Use code RUMBLE at checkout for 10% off your order today. That's caddisports.com. Go grab the Hunter Orange 25Q cooler and keep your next adventure ice cold.
Okay, so let's move on now to Steve Gruber and see what he has to say.
Almost 40. Welcome back now to continue the conversation. My next guest, Congressman Tim Walberg, represents Michigan's 5th Congressional District. He usually usually joins us on Fridays. He's back in district today, which is a nice place to be. Michigan in August, September, October, no better place in the world. I don't care where you live. I'm gonna tell you that that's just the way it is. Congressman Tim Walberg, welcome back.
We're in full agreement this morning.
Yeah, on that we are for sure. Let me ask you about that. I got to ask you about most morning. I got to ask you about the big headlines here today, because the headline Chuck Grassley. To me today is the best argument against term limits I've ever seen. He's been there for like 6 terms. He is pulling out and declassifying one document after another pile of documents, showing the nefarious behavior of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, John Kerry, Loretta Lynch, Andrew McCabe. The list just goes on and on. And now he has tied in one of your colleagues from Russia, W. Wasserman Schultz, as to being the liaison between George Soros and this whole scam of Russia on America and this whole false narrative. I mean, I'm pretty proud of Chuck Grassley today and all the people doing the research. And I'd like to talk to the guy who forgot to burn the burn bags over at the FBI. What do you make of all this?
Well, in the end, if we allow the system to work, it will work well and show, in this case, the wrong that was brought on by people who were trying to stop America from changing. From what Barack Obama had started. They just could not believe that he wouldn't have a third term via Hillary Clinton and move forward the socialist agenda that he started with all sorts of things, including Obamacare, which we still have problems with, and really takes away what America ought to have. So every effort was put in place, and Wasserman Schultz at that time was doing things, in fact, getting caught doing things even against her own party to try to move forward the socialist agenda. And I think Chuck Grassley, and you'll also see in the House as well, the Judiciary Committee continue to do things that will, now that we have the opportunity to do it, will show that Democrats wanted to change the course of history.
They did.
In a way that it hadn't been done before. They did it, but now we're finding out and how.
Yeah. For the first time, I'm watching all this break yesterday. Hillary Clinton asking Joe Biden to take the first shot, which he did, by the way, going out in July saying Trump has a Russia problem. We have texts and emails, apparently, that we'll be seeing here maybe today that underscore that. Biden delivered 2 speeches plus a DNC appearance where he brought out the, quote, Russia problem. For the first time here in all of this, Congressman, I actually think people could really go to prison over this. I think people are going to go to prison because, I mean, whoever forgot to burn the burn bags, thank you. Honestly, the evidence, the annex to this report and that report and all this evidence and text messages. And it's clear now that Hillary Clinton created the Russia narrative to distract from her email disaster, the 33,000 emails that were subject to bleach bin, and then the devices hit with ball-peen hammers to destroy them physically. This was all done to save her bacon. And it was picked up by Barack Obama after it failed. They failed to take out Trump, the candidate. They failed to take out Trump, the president-elect, and then they went after him for 4 more years. And they still failed, I know, because he is now president of the United States again. It's the crime of the century, Congressman. And I mean that. I'm not saying that. I think that with all honesty. I think it's the crime of the century. And my first time in a long time, I believe people will go to prison. And I think that Hillary Clinton should be there with them. Your thoughts?
Well, from what we see so far, I totally agree with you. There may be an immunity for President Obama,
maybe
as a result of immunity that was given and concurred with by the courts for President Trump. But others don't have that same immunity. And in talking with Jim Jordan just a week and a half ago about this whole issue and what he saw, what I was able to see as I sat on oversight committee during that time as well, this was a dirty deal that was perpetrated because they could get away with it at the time. And they thought ultimately it would be successful. You wouldn't have President Trump and President Trump almost had the opportunity to get some things started until we had COVID and all that went on with that, and then the loss of the majority for the Republicans in the House that really stopped the president from moving forward on turning America around and getting things back in order and getting truth out again, however ugly it might be. And now we're seeing that. But here, President Trump is in office. We have a majority in both houses of Republicans and people like Jim Jordan and Chuck Grassley that are willing to say, Katie, bar the door, we're going to go for truth. And if it takes some people down and puts them in prison, then that's right, and it ought to be that way. FBI Director Comey should not have been allowed to do what he did, to set up a president, to set up presidential cabinet member, and really destroy the narrative that he should have been putting out that was true of things that went on wrong. But he was part of the problem himself, part of the crime.
Yeah. And we're going to continue to follow this. I do want you to get in a quick comment about the Great Lakes Fisheries and the Mass Marking Program Act. You joined Debbie Dingell and Bill Huizenga to establish a program to make sure that we're marking all the fish that come out of hatcheries so that we can determine hatchery fish versus wild fish, ones that are born in the wild and created in the wild. Or hatched, I guess would be more accurate. But anyhow, you get my point. Tell me about this legislation, why it's so important.
Well, why it's so important is that in Michigan, it's a huge, huge industry for us, both commercial, tribal, and recreational fishing. We're surrounded by 20% of the world's freshwater sources. The fishery industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and up until now, we haven't had a modern system in seeing where we're achieving success and where we're not. And it can be simply approached by a better marketing process. And so we who are part of the Great Lakes Caucus, and especially those of us in Michigan, myself, Debbie Dingell, Bill Huizenga, decided it's time to punch forward and get that in line so we know what we're doing. We're not wasting money, not wasting effort, but also not falling behind. And this is, I think, a simple approach whose time has come long ago, and we need to get it done. So we're glad to put that legislation forward, ultimately get it passed in the House, and hopefully soon in the Senate as well.
Congressman Tim Walberg, you're right. It's time to protect the fisheries. It always has been the time to protect the fisheries, but it's an ongoing effort, that's for sure. Congressman Tim Walberg, always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
All right, let me go ahead and pause that there. Great information. I mean, we can only hope that they follow through with this these investigations, and someone actually has to pay the price for what they've done. All right, clicking on the Rumble link, it does take us to the Steve Gruber video that I shared with you. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here, and let me remind you again, folks, that these videos that I share with you do come directly from the producer's channel. Okay, and as I showed you, these videos that I've shared with you, I've posted on Murtech.com to promote this information. Murtech.com is a free site. I don't ask for your name. I don't ask for your email address. I don't drop cookies on your computer or have ads popping up in your face. It's your one-stop shop for no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. And the link to Murtech.com is right here. My daily news update. Okay, jumping over here to Murtech.com, as I said, I do have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. I didn't have time to share all of them with you, but I will be back about 9:30 to start my daily news wrap-up of information that's out there today. I have almost 60 videos in my playlist already. I'm going to go ahead and take a break here, be back at 9:30. Go ahead and grab a donut, cup of coffee, sandwich, soft drink, whatever, or beer, and come back and meet me at 9:30, and we'll have our daily news wrap-up. But in the meantime, let's jump back over here and let me do a quick refresh on this. this screen. Nice. Okay. And again, here's a link to the Candace Sports if you're interested in that cooler that was talked about. But it looks like I've had 250 people watch this video so far. I've got 33 watching right now, and I've got 4 thumbs up. So, if I could get 29 of you to slide down and give me a thumbs up, that would definitely be great. It would help in getting the distribution out of this news because, folks, there are a lot of people that they just don't know what's going on. If they see this, if you help share it out, there's a share button right here. You can share this on Truth Social. You can email it out, WhatsApp, X, Facebook. You can even copy this link right here and go to your favorite social media platform and paste that in and post it. And let people know what's actually going on rather than having to rely on the lying legacy media. Okay, but once again, I do want to thank you for your time, for spending it with me here. And hopefully, I'll get to see you later when I come back with my daily news wrap up. So thanks and again, and may God bless.